January 6th, Epiphany, a lot of really interesting traditions with this feast. I was in Spain at this time of the year. I don't know, what, 2018? I guess it would have been the beginning of 2019, I think. I happened to be in Seville on the Epiphany, and I arrived just before their Three Kings parade, which is a huge, huge parade, and it gave me a taste of traditions that they have in historically Catholic countries, that we don't have here. I mean, St. Patrick's Day just doesn't in New York City. Sorry to say, it just doesn't cut it, by comparison. So Three Kings Day in some countries, especially in Spanish speaking countries, apparently is the big gift giving day. As opposed to Christmas, and which obviously makes sense, from a biblical standpoint. But they had this huge parade with the float with the three kings, and also this other float with somebody called the Wizard of Fantasy, who seemed like, I don't know who that is or where he is in the Bible, but anyway, so there were some weird aspects to it as well, but it was quite impressive. And so Three Kings Day is something that we should not neglect. And one of the suggestions in this book that I appreciated was the idea of continuing the creche. We didn't mention the Christmas creche, but a lot of people, of course, have the nativity scene, the creche, a tradition supposedly going back to St. Francis. And I liked this idea of having the three kings moving throughout the Christmas season until they arrive at the manger, around the crib of Jesus on Epiphany. I think that's a great idea.
It's a lot better than Elf on a Shelf, isn't it? My
right.
nieces and nephews just loved waking up every day and seeing the elf move from one place to the other. It would be much better to have the three wise men get closer to the creche every day.
Right. But yeah, there's also, of course, the famous tradition of the cake. I associate it with New Orleans, the king cake with the tiny figure of Jesus hidden inside, and whoever there's whoever people are trying to find the figurine, get the bite that has the baby Jesus in it. And another big one though is the house blessing. And I don't know. This is something that I knew about because they would do this in my my high school, my Catholic high school in Virginia. They would have one of the teachers would always go around doing the blessing on the various classrooms with students dressed as the three kings accompanying him, and so that was always a fun thing. But I think the first time that I did this was in my own apartment, was a couple of years ago. So maybe for people who aren't familiar with this tradition, can you explain how the Epiphany house blessing works?
Yeah. So the house blessing is above the door, I suppose the main door of the house or your apartment, whatever it is, right? The first two first two numerals of the year, and the second two are on the right, and in the middle you have C plus M plus B. And apparently these are either the initials of the wise men, Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, or another interpretation is it's short for something like Christus mansionem benedicat, or something. Christ bless this mansion, like you live in, Dennis, this house. And then there'd be a prayer, and then I think kind of like you were describing in your school, Thomas, going through the house and blessing the rooms with holy water. So yeah, it's this is one of those things that, right, our Rituale Romanum, revised after the Second Vatican Council, is more popular. It has this section called the Book of Blessings, and it's not in there anywhere, unfortunately, because this is one of those things that is it's very popular. And a lot of the genesis of this book is that these things that have happened in the tradition, not just over the 2,000 years, but for 4,000 years or 5,000. This is as much my story today as it is, anybody's. I mean, these are my traditions, and I think Ascension got the sense that so many of these are just unfamiliar to us in this
Right.
day and age, and there's a real hunger for these types of traditions, and I think this is a perfect example of that. Is the household blessing with the chalk on Epiphany.
Yes. Yeah, and there is a whole order, the rite of blessing that you can find online or in the Catholic Household Blessings and Prayers book. And it's actually pretty involved and very cool. And another aspect of this that's worth mentioning is the Epiphany water, which I think I only learned about this last year, that there is such a thing as, special holy water with a special blessing for Epiphany. And I remember my parish, which happens to be the one that I think, Dennis, you grew up in, St. Vincent Ferrer, in New York City. I remember hearing, we did, like a 40-minute long exorcism on this water. So it's just like supercharged holy water, essentially. I still have a full bottle from last year pretty much. But, so people should, inquire at their parish about getting some of this water, to use, especially in this house blessing and throughout the year. And I don't know. I don't know if every parish does it or has to do it, but it's a great thing to suggest. Maybe if it's not happening at your parish, to get the priest to do this and make that available to the parishioners.
Yeah, priest exorcist that I know uses only Epiphany water in his exorcisms because he said it has the most blessings, the most things attached to it, and he got permission from his bishop to make it any day of the year. Normally, you can only make it on Epiphany, but he got a special exception to make it any day to use in
That's
exorcism.
Great. Okay, what else can we talk about? One other aspect before we get into maybe the theology of Epiphany, or this will help lead us into it, is what happens in Mass on the Solemnity of the Epiphany, where the deacon proclaims the announcement for the date of Easter and the other movable feasts of the year. Now, if Pope Francis ends up getting us on the same page with the Eastern Orthodox for a fixed date of Easter, then we might not be proclaiming that anymore. Who knows? But well, why is this done? And is there a spiritual meaning that we can take away from that?
Yeah, I think that much as we mentioned before, that we celebrate Christmas on December 25th because Jesus died on March 25th. The whole, just like the whole week revolves around Sunday, the whole year takes its bearings from the Paschal Mystery of Christ, celebrated around, on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the equinox, so around March 25th. So it's, as Alexis wrote in her chapter, it's not just a reminder, it's a sacramental expression of, hey, the reason that we're celebrating Epiphany and Christmas is so that Jesus can die and rise. Don't get confused about that, bringing us back to that. And this text is in the Missal today and can be done. And I've never heard it proclaimed. So maybe this will be on another of my New Year's resolutions. But, while we're searching for new, neat, cool things to do, well, there's a whole bunch of things that are legit and traditional and contemporary and in the book right now that we should try those first before going on to try other things they're not of the mind of the church.
Maybe we can talk a little bit more, Christopher, about some of the theological themes that we can reflect on for Epiphany.
Yeah, well, what's Epiphany mean? To shine out. Epiphanos, I suppose, means to shine away, to reveal. And that is kind of the real theme, is this, if Jesus is born with limited people, in a stable, with the representation of the Magi is this revelation of the mystery to the whole world, this Epiphany. And so that seems to be, the real theme, the revelation of the plan of the mystery. So this term mystery is one that comes up all the time in liturgical and sacramental theology, and it doesn't mean necessarily something that's mysterious as in hidden or kept back or unknown or something like that. True, the plan in God the Father's mind is bigger than any of us individually or collectively can figure out. But God's not trying to keep that a secret. Quite the contrary. This is the whole point of the relationship with the chosen people, and the sending of Christ is to proclaim from the rooftops this secret, this great plan of the mystery, how despite Adam's fall and humanity's fall and our individual sins, that God has sent a Redeemer to bring us back to him. That's not a mystery that's supposed to be kept, from other people. It's supposed to be proclaimed. And that's the gist, the substance of the Epiphany. And so all these themes about light and enlightenment and looking towards the East. I mean, the more I think about this little side about these Ad Orientem debates that you may or may not be a part of. I mean, it just seems to make all the liturgical sense in the world that the wise men come from the East representing us, and the announcement goes out to the East. And again, I wrote in this chapter, and this is one of the things I learned, is the stational church, where the Pope would say Mass on the Epiphany was St. Peter's. I mean, just think about, it's this church with its arms opened toward, it's oriented, isn't it, Dennis? Or it's rather flipped
it's
around.
Reversed oriented, yeah.
Yeah, so the arms are reaching out towards the East, towards the Gentile people. And so, the substance of the mystery of the day is the revelation of this mystery to every creature who has ears to hear.